Well, well, well. You don't say. Fascinating. If your dog owns the house, he might own the walk too. Somebody has written something very intriguing. This. Wow. I am amazed at the depth of wisdom and knowledge put forth in such clear, unfancy terminology, so easy to read. I am thoroughly impressed. Have you got it yet, guys? It's out. All of you guys asking, where is it? Where the hell is it? All the ones who have pre-ordered the signed ones, the first pre-orders, I think those are all in the mailbox. All of you guys who have ordered since then, they're coming down the pike soon. So be super duper patient with us. It's a mom and pop operation. There isn't some giant machine that's like robots, you know, and an automated system like moving this thing along and sending them out to you. It's just our automated system is Shelby in New Orleans, and a lot of boxes and a lot of handwritten labels. So a little patience, and we promise we'll get it to you ASAPers. Anyways, good dog, love them by leading them, super proud, super excited. It's pretty amazing to actually hold one in my hand. It came out better than we thought, and so I wanted to thank everybody involved. I wanted to thank Laura, of course, for being the one who put the whole kind of like layout together, formatting all of this like incredibly challenging stuff. Let's see, Maddie Waddy, codename Maddie Waddy, for reading early versions of this for us. Joanne Treadway for reading early versions of this for us as well. Super duper appreciated. Brittany, Shelby, both of you ladies also contributed considerably to reading through this and giving us notes that were really helpful, really valuable. So here it is, guys. It's ready to rock and roll if you're ready to rock and roll. And I'm telling you, you know, yeah, it's my book and, you know, all that good stuff. But there's information in here presented in a way that's probably not presented anywhere else in any other book. And I would go out on a limb and say there's going to be information in here presented in a fashion that will help you connect dots and solve problems and get over humps and fix obstacles and issues that you have with your dog that you probably haven't been able to before. So, with that shameless self-promotion, we're gonna jam on it. So let's talk a quick little game. You see, it's just me. I've got some fancy lighting. I couldn't let Laura be the only one with fancy lighting, so I've got myself some of my own fancy lighting. It's not as fancy as hers, and the camera's not as fancy as hers, but you know, we crawl out of the ghetto slowly. Anyways, so a couple things going on. I want to try and keep this super quick. You guys saw Peanut come in. A lot of folks had a really strong reaction to Peanut. That was a really severe reactivity go that Peanut had at Manny. No mic, so we don't have to worry about the water. Mic's coming soon though. But so a really serious reaction, but very important. People were like, why do you need to have that go on? Isn't that dangerous? It was really important so we could see what the owners are actually dealing with and how severe it is with the owners. And then because a lot of times you hand the dog off to the trainers, you get a very different thing. So it's really important to start to be able to discern what that dynamic is between the owners and the dog. And then if you get a very different thing, then like, okay, what did we do that's causing beneficial results? Are those enough to leverage to create the same results for the owners, or is the relationship really dodgy and going to be problematic? So those are some answers to why we posted that. And once again, I'm a big believer in hope for owners that might have the same kind of dog and feel like there's nothing they can do. So we send Peanut home looking awesome, and I think a lot of people will be like, oh, wow, there really is hope. And of course, for marketing, like I said, I owned up in the video for anybody who thought I was like being sneaky about marketing. No, like showing great results with really challenging dogs, like I'm all about it. There's no hiding here. Marketing and creating a successful, sustainable business so we can continue to serve the community is super important. And if you're not marketing, and if you're not promoting, if you're not doing all that stuff, and you're not showing your results, you're probably losing. So anyways, that's that. What else we got? I got this UK trip coming up, me and Jeffrey Gelman to be exact. I don't have the dates in front of me because I'm terrible with dates, but I know it's in July, and there's a big hubbub going on. There's talk about, there's Facebook groups that have been created that are all built around like blocking us from coming, as if they could block us from coming. Like it's not like we're illegal immigrants coming in and looking to feed off the system. We're coming over to do a couple weekends of seminars. So I think people are gravely mistaken about what their rights and abilities are to block. They may be vocal and upset about us, but they can't really do anything about it. So, but we do appreciate the notoriety and the attention and everything else that it draws to us. So keep it up, folks. We dig it. But anybody in the UK that wants to come meet with me and Jeff, see the seminars, do the Q&A, or do one-on-one sessions, it might be a once-in-a-lifetime chance. I don't want to say it is, because who knows, we could get over there again and then you're like, hey, what a liar you are. But it could be a once-in-a-lifetime chance to do this as it goes down. And then we're getting some really fab reviews on the book. Yes, this is my second coffee. Some really fabulous reviews, and I'm telling you guys, I'm gonna sound like my grandpa, but like I'm tickled. I'm literally, I never thought I'd be old enough to say I'm tickled, but I'm tickled that the reviews are coming in. There's been people saying things like, this is the best dog training book I've ever read. This is game changing. I can't believe what's in it. It's beautiful. It's amazing. It's more than we thought it would be. And man, does that really like make you feel super, super solid about all the hard work you did. And I do think it is a different kind of training book, and so I'm excited that it's coming across that way. You never know when you create something and you release it. You never know what you're gonna get. You hope, you cross your fingers, and you hope it's gonna look, awesome. You hope it's gonna be valuable. You hope it's gonna help people, and you don't know until it hits the marketplace, until people start coming back and sharing stuff, and they could be like, but so far it hasn't been. It's been really, really positive. So thanks all of you guys. Anybody who reads it, who's already ordered it, who reads it, I love for you to put in a Facebook comment. You could even email us at oshandy, OSHANDY, at gmail.com, and email us any testimonial that you would like. Or you can just put it in a Facebook comment like a bunch of other folks did, and just make it nice and easy and have some fun with it, and let us know what you think. If you didn't like it, that's fine too. But I am super, super excited. People are already asking for a volume 2. Let's get volume 1 going. Let's get it out to sea. So anyways, that's that. You see the lovely Laura Morgan is not here. She is back home. She is with Forrest. She has got so much on her plate. She's got a ton of stuff going on. So for right now, we're doing this kind of separate kind of thing, and then we put it together. We have a good time with it, so it works pretty nice. I think I might out fancy her with camera and lights this time, because I think she might go low key with just an iPhone, so I might get the drop on her. But anyway, so that's how this is rolling right now. It's just, you just got me. some coffee, some water. Manny's nowhere to be found. And treats have all been eaten in order to fuel me up and get me ready for this extravaganza between just the two of us. And so we're gonna jump into some show. I was gonna say shows. We're gonna jump into some show and some intro to the show. So you guys ready? See if I can like pull this off, because you know how I love to butcher the show intro. Ready? Hey everybody, it's Sean from The Good Dog, and there's nobody around me. It's just me. To the left, to the right, there's no dogs, there's no Laura, there's no Manny, there's no nails, there's no nothing, there's no Forrest. It's just me. And all the stuff that you can't see, it's still more stuff that you can't see, and there's really nothing else there. But it all makes up The Good Dogs Q&A Saturday, episode number 133. And if I'm backwards, because I never know how this works, 133. So I think my bases are covered. So with that, let's jump into the first question. You guys ready?
Hey guys! Happy episode 1. Is it 33? I think it's 34. I feel like we're one off still. But whatever it is, 133 or 134, we love you guys, and thanks for dealing with this bi-coastal or double, what is it? Bi-location specific, I don't know what I'm saying. 2 locations, 2 of us, not together, in the same room. You guys are hanging with it. We love you for it. Let's get into this awesome show. Okay, I'm in my second location, aka my apartment. We got little man Forrest, who is definitely going to be making some noise. I can tell you that much right now. Okay, question number 1 comes from Angela. Angela says, I have a Pity Lab mix rescue that I've had for about a year. He's night and day progressed through being fearful and climbing fences and straight up ignoring by staring right through you, to a warm sweetheart of a guy who's stubborn but wants to please. We are in the middle of e-collar work, and I'm finding those moments when he doesn't have the collar on, or if I don't have the button in hand where he would listen before the collar, now almost seems like there's a pause, like he's not sure if he should listen without the stim first. Is this a normal transition, or is there something more I can be doing to help him to get him more reliant or doing his own work? In our timed training, he is on it. When we are in non-structured training, like 2 to 3 minutes randomly, he hesitates. Thanks.
So what's happening is, if I understand right, Angela's dog is struggling with gambling, right? Gambling is when you don't always correct. Gambling is when you don't always have the right tools on your dog. Gambling is when you say, like, maybe it's okay today, and then you don't correct for some monkey business that you don't want, whether it's a prong collar, e-collar, bonker, squirt bottle, whatever it is. And if you let the dog get by with it, dogs are super smart, super savvy. What do? They go, I didn't get corrected for that, so maybe I can get away with that. So if you've got gambling going on, that means that you are not being consistent in your corrections or consequences. It's just like kids. If you've got kids and you're not being consistent with consequences, accountability for their behavior, you know what's gonna happen. They're gonna push your buttons. They're gonna go to mom and see what mom says. They're gonna go to dad, see what dad says, and they're gonna take the best. And even if both parents say no, but both parents don't have any teeth in their discipline, they're just gonna do what they're gonna do, because without consequences, you guys know how it rolls. Without consequences, dogs and kids and us are gonna pretty much do what we're gonna do. So anyways, let's check it out. So the notes I have for you are, the only way around this is massive consistency. This is the hard part, and it's the hard part for most humans. You have to overtrain and over-pattern the dog for a long, long time, right? Another hard part for the human. Anything that involves consistency and a long time is really hard. I get it. But that's really the trick. The trick is the psychological kind of bamboozle. You do something so long that it becomes a pattern that the dog forgets that it wants to push against the pattern, right? Now, if you do it for a little bit, you create a little bit of a pattern, and then you take the collar off or the tool off or whatever it is, but the patterns are not super deep, not super set, and the dog takes a shot at doing something it shouldn't do, and there's no consequence. Okay. Write it down in his little doggy book. Cool. That means I got a good shot at getting away with it next time. So the trick is like super unsexy. Excuse me. The trick is super unsexy. The trick is all about that stuff that nobody likes to do, the super consistent stuff, and being right on top of the dog and making sure that consequences are shared for poor behavior. And that's how you get dogs to be conditioned to say, like, that choice, I don't want to make it, because every time I do, there's a negative consequence attached to it, so I don't want to do it, right? Does that make sense? Nice and simple. And I just closed it out with, like, because this is my favorite one, when cops drive off the off-ramp, we change our driving. Why? Think about cops driving off the off-ramp as you taking off the e-collar off your dog, right? So why do we drive really nice to the cop? Hi, sir. And then they drive off and you're like, and you take off and do your thing. Because the consequence and the possibility of that consequence just went off the off-ramp. Same thing goes on with your e-collar or your prong collar or whatever tools you're using. You take the tools off and the cop just pulled off the off-ramp. And your dog's like, cool, let me see what I can get into. That's as simple as it gets, guys. It's really, really that simple. So if you want great stuff from your dog, consistency, accountability, rules, structure, all that boring stuff that's not a lot of fun to do, except for when you end up with an awesome dog. Then you go like, yeah, it was pretty worth it. But it is hard work to get the dog into that space. And if you try and gamble too early, you're guaranteed, almost guaranteed, unless you've got the world's biggest cream puff, to end up with a dog that starts gambling and starts giving you a hard time and starts taking chances, and the next thing you know, it's not responsive, and next thing you know, you have to say its name 5, 6, 10, 15 times, and then you've got to be like, well, I'm gonna go get the e-collar, and you go get the e-collar, and then the dog listens, and then the dog goes, yeah, I listen every time this is on, and every time it's not on. Does that make sense? Okay, hope that helps.
Okay, question 2 is from Armando. Armando says, hey Sean, you've addressed my questions in the past and they've always been extremely helpful. Thank you so much. And this question is business related. Yes. I'm a dog trainer in the upstate New York region. Most of my business is board and trains. As the business grows, I'd like to be able to expand it into a larger space. I currently work out of the house, and while I don't want to get an actual training facility, I'm considering renting a larger house so I can work with more dogs. At the moment, I can take on 3 at a time. My question centers around the idea as when I can actually expand. The business appears to be almost cyclical at times, so that at certain periods I'm booked 4 months out in advance, and then other times I have my calendar clear for about 2 months, meaning no board and trains. During those 2 months I panic because I'm wondering why things have slowed down, but then it picks up again and I book out for another few months in advance. Pretty typical. Am I overthinking this? Is this a good time to get a larger place so I can work with more dogs, or should I wait until I'm continuously booked in advance before doing so? What are your thoughts? Thank you for all your help.
Okay, I'm kind of digging this whole solo venture with my fancy stuff. Like, I ordered the light rig. I was talking with Laura. I was like, Laura, I think I need a light rig for, when I'm in New Orleans or I'm here and, we're not doing this, we're not able to do this together. Like, I need something because that light rig makes me look 10 years younger and makes my teeth white and makes the skin look good and all that stuff. And of course, her fancy $5,000 camera helps too. But I don't have that. So what I did was opted for the trade-off of just the light and my iPhone 6 Plus. So, but the 6 Plus with good lighting, not bad, not bad. So anyways, okay. So thank you, Laura, for reading that question. This one is from Armando. So Armando's asking a question as a trainer, which is a pretty common question and one that a lot of folks are challenged with, growth. So when do you grow, and how do you deal with the possibility of down times, of slow times, of things not being in their best space, which to me are pretty inevitable. There's folks that will say, they found workarounds about, like downtimes, and they don't ever see downtimes. And if they have, that's fantastic. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen any kind of like magic tricks to it. I think that, every marketplace and every kind of region has their spots and their times where things make more sense to do dog training and things make less sense to do dog training. Of course, if the economy is like challenged, that can, have some kind of bearing on it. That said, I started my dog training business in like 2008 when things were in the toilet. So don't let the economy or anything else, don't sign up for any excuses for that, because if you do good enough work and you do good enough marketing and you show good enough results, and I'm going to get into all that, you can beat the economy and all that stuff. So here's the dealio. Slow times will happen to everyone. We even talk about it at T3. We talk about preparing for the winter time. And it's such an important thing, guys. Things go good. It's such human nature. Things go good and you're like, it's gonna just go and it's gonna never stop and it's just gonna like boom, arc and just take off. And the reality is that usually it does like, oh my goodness, and then what the hell happened? And you ride it out and you're like, it's doomsday. We're all gonna die. We can't fire everybody. And then it picks back up. And it kind of looks nice. And then it comes down a little. That's a pretty typical cycle that we see in the dog training world. So for one, I would just accept it. I would just accept that that's cooking, that's at play, and that's a very likely something very likely to transpire in your business as you do it. Now, that said, we've had slow times here, not a million, not a ton, and I'll explain why I think, but we've definitely had slow times here, and they taught us quickly, like, how to work around them, how to try and prevent them in the future, things like that. So, but your question is like, you want to expand, but you're worried about the slow times. So for us, if you've ever heard us talk about it, our strategy was always a really simple one. Our strategy was always, we expanded when we were bursting. We expanded when we were bursting at the seams. Now I know other people have other strategies and other beliefs that you like expand and build into the expansion. That's not our mojo. That's not what works for us. For us, it's like we work with a small, tight team, try and keep expenses as low as we can and keep profits as high as we can. And we do that dance until we start to see that, okay, this is starting to get to a place where it's untenable. It's challenging to keep the level of quality where we need it to. So that's been our strategy forever, which is basically hang in there, ride it, suck it up until you're ready to burst. And when you're ready to burst, start looking for awesome people to bring on board to help you not burst and help you do a really good job, right? So that's one piece of it. Let's see. Okay, so like I said, and I kind of covered this already, but I said like there's basically a couple of tricks. And they're not really tricks, they're just strategies. And the main trick is one, expect it and be financially prepared, right? It's so simple, but it's an easy one to screw up, especially when things are good. So be financially prepared, sock money away, so if something goes south, things get hard, things get rough, things get slow, you're not sweating bullets, you're not taking the crappiest clients, you're not having to do work that is beneath what you want to be doing. You're not having to sell out. You know what I mean? If you've got money in the bank and you've done a really good job of taking care of yourself financially, then even when it gets slow, you can still be smart, choosy, selective, awesome about the people that you're going to bring in to work with, which is a really empowering place. The least empowering place is like desperation, and we'll bring anybody on board, and then you know how that ends up working out. Bad clients come in, they can smell the blood in the water, and then you end up like kissing behind and trying to help clients that are not committed or not in a good space or struggling here, and try and get them to a good spot, and they're not really doing their work, and you're trying to do all the work for them. So that's one big part of it, is make sure you're financially prepared if the bottom drops out, right? And then do everything in your power, Armando, to market, brand, and storytell better than your competition. Now that might sound like nebulous and like, huh? But for a lot of folks, like marketing, branding, storytelling doesn't make a lot of sense to them. They do advertising, they do doggy demos in the park, they have stuff on their cars, advertisements, t-shirts, things like that. And yes, those are some forms of branding and creating awareness, but I think they're your least leveraged forms. I think with social media and all the platforms that you have available, the ways that you're able to show value and show who you are and what kind of person and what kind of people your team are, boy, do you have a special time right now. Like, this is the time, and so many people are afraid to be transparent and share what they really do and how they work and show their results. And so it leaves a pretty big gap for those that are willing to do so and bold enough to do so. You know, every post I put up, every picture, every video, every graphic, everything from YouTube to Instagram stories to Facebook, all of it, it all has a purpose. And it doesn't mean that it's conniving and manipulative, but it all has a storytelling purpose. It all has a marketing purpose. It all has a branding purpose. And marketing, branding is about the goal of creating positive feelings about your brand, about your business, right? So if you can plant that in your head of like, and this is complicated stuff, so you have to do some work and do some research, but if everything you put out is based on that principle of, I want to find a way legitimately, authentically, not in a BS way, of creating positive feelings about my business and about my team, boy, are you way ahead of everybody. And so people smell BS, people smell cheesy sales, people smell bait and switch, people sell like all sorts of like bargain basement sales. What they don't smell, because it's not stinky, is value. They don't smell the stinkiness of help, of care, of value, of putting out content. So we're huge purveyors of content creation. So you'll see every day, on the daily, you're gonna see blog posts, tips, pictures, videos, all of them they're not just tooting our own horn. And that's where a lot of dog trainers lose their mojo. So they're just tooting their own horn. They're not telling the story about the dog, about the owners, about how to create success, about their process in training, about what the journey is like for the dog and for the owners and the arc. I mean, the whole thing, everybody gravitates towards story, and the better you get at telling story in a legitimate, authentic fashion, the more people are going to gravitate towards you and your business. So TGD does a really good job of telling stories, if I do say so myself, and they're legitimate, real, authentic stories. We're telling stories of bad dogs being worked with by nice people, turning into great dogs. And that's really our story, and you'll see that embedded in lots of different ways in all of our messages. So that's how we prevent downtimes. And it doesn't mean that it's bulletproof. It doesn't mean that there's no way around it. But what I would suggest is that instead of sitting there like, how do we avoid slow times and being kind of a victim to like whatever goes on in the marketplace, like make the marketplace your bitch. Go out there and like just destroy it. Like Tori Smith is a great example of somebody who's using all of the contemporary platforms to share her value, teaching, helping, caring, giving for free, not asking for anything, not being one of those dog trainers who's afraid to give anything because, oh my God, you know, like they're gonna know my secrets and then they'll never hire me. BS. Tori's killing it because she's giving it away. And that's been the same model for us. So I hope that that helps for you. I'll just real quick read through this last part. So what I would suggest is market, brand, storytell better than the competition, great results in video, an amazing website is non-negotiable. You can't have like a crappy, cheesy, shitty website, just not in this day and age. Great SEO to where you're showing up when people do Google searches. You gotta be on that first page. If you're not, you gotta sort that out. And then content marketing by giving, sharing, being kind, and then killing all the different social platforms. So I hope that helps. It's a lot of stuff. Read some books, follow Gary Vaynerchuk, and other people that are doing great marketing, and see how it works and see how giving value first brings people into your world. Hope that helps.
Okay, question 3, this is for me. So I'm gonna be answering it for myself. Hi Sean, question 3 is from Stephanie. Hi Sean, I know how busy you are and don't expect a long response, but I feel I have an issue not addressed on most of your videos and other content. I have a 10-month-old GSD with a number of reactivity issues like dogs on leash, visitors, fence fighting that we are working on with him, but the most frustrating issue is his severe reaction to moving cars. He explodes even at slow moving cars, barking, lunging wildly. His threshold's pretty low, usually about 50 feet, and even if he tolerates 1 or 2 without reacting, he seems to be loading up until he ultimately does lose it. He also barks and thrashes while in our car at a sight of another vehicle, and we have to keep him in a crate in the trunk with a blanket over it just to prevent these explosions. Hike! We are working with a trainer on some of his other problems and currently have him on a prong on walks and around the house for obedience. We'll be getting on e-collar soon. He knows basic commands, but as you can imagine, he can't maintain them when cars are passing. Sitting on our front porch is impossible. Walking around the neighborhood is bad. There are inevitable explosions. We've tried food desensitization with no change. I'm unsure about giving a high-level correction on the prong because he's correcting himself like by lunging ahead. Just as scary is the probability that one day he'll pull hard enough to get in front of a car. This behavior is frustrating because we know how deadly it is. Any thoughts you have would be appreciated. I've listened to past Q&As to see if you addressed this but didn't find anything. Thank you, and double thanks to all you do for dogs and owners. Stephanie, we've definitely addressed this, but definitely not this specific thing. So thank you for asking this question. It's a good one. A lot of people struggle with this. Take it away, Laura. Okay, Stephanie, so I feel your pain. I had a 10-month-old GSD at one point. I think a lot of our viewers have had a 10-month-old dog at some point, and some of them GSDs. And you know I love my GSDs, even with their crazy shenanigans. The thing I like about them is that, for the most part, once you teach them what no means in a way that they understand, they're really on board to be like, okay, fine, I get it. No more monkey business. Not no more. I don't want, that's a little bit, that's a lot. That's totally untrue. But for the most part, they're far less stubborn, in my opinion, than maybe like your pity mixes or some of these other big breed dogs that just have a little bit more like, I'm gonna need you to tell me no like 1,000 times, and then maybe I'll start thinking about it. GSDs are kind of like, okay, I get it. But that's a totally an overgeneralization. So all you people out there with a GSD who's stubborn, you don't need to write, I had a terribly stubborn GSD that needed way more than one reminder. I'm just saying over the course of what I've seen, that seems to be the case, but don't hold me to it. It's just a light opinion. Okay, so here's the deal. You said that you don't want to correct you're concerned about a heavy correction on the prong because it's already going to the end of the leash. That makes perfect sense. The only thing I would say with the prong that you could do is you could get some payoff from correcting far earlier than you are. Like him, when he's getting to the end of the leash, that's not really a correction. That's just literally the prong and the leash stopping him. It's not necessarily like he's okay, like, you know, oh, that correction is now going to get me out of this fog or this intensity. It's not doing any of that. So it's, I would say the only thing that you could do if you wanted to on the prong is just correct as soon as you hear the car, because if you hear it, Mr. 10-month-old hears it too. So as soon as you hear it and you see the little perk up of the ears or whatever, that's when you give a correction on the prong, and it has to be a firm correction. However, I'm just gonna go with that I want you to wait for your e-collar training for you to really see how far you can go with this. Because a prong is great, but a determined young man could see that prong correction and be like, yeah, right, that's not gonna do anything for me. I'm just gonna, and it could actually amp him up a little bit. 1 second. We just need to fix the baby. Fix the baby. See, I caught it at the very first thing, so then now he's not gonna go crazy. If I catch him at the beginning, it's all timing, right? Okay, so basically, yeah, we wanna do, I personally would like you to wait. Now, you said that your trainer is gonna start using the e-collar. Now, I wasn't sure if your trainer's gonna start using the e-collar, meaning your trainer's just beginning to learn how to use the e-collar. That's different and maybe a little bit problematic with this, just because you have a dog who is going to need someone who really knows what they're doing. But maybe you're saying that your trainer already knows how to do e-collar and they're going to start using the e-collar on the dog. If your trainer is new to the e-collar, I would suggest really watching our videos. We have our DVD out that you could buy, you could start doing on your own, or you can watch our free videos on YouTube. I would suggest really working the dog yourself and making sure that things are done right? That means using low level to start, getting the working level or the perception level, as Sean calls it, getting that working level, and then moving from there, teaching the dog very fairly what everything means. He's a GSD, so he's probably super smart. He'll catch on really fast. Teaching him what everything means, and then going to corrections once everything is done and settled, meaning that he knows what is expected of him. Uh-oh. We know what's expected of the baby. He's like, talk to me, dude, not that. But I'm gonna actually assume that your trainer knows how to use e-collar. So your trainer's gonna teach the dog e-collar, all of the behaviors you guys have already taught on prong, sit down, place, all those things, heeling on leash. Really wanna get your dog super, super comfortable with the e-collar at a low level. And the reason why, same reason as it always is for every dog, but the reason why we really wanna get him comfortable at a low level and really know exactly fairly what the e-collar means, teaching it over a long period of time, not just slapping it on and correcting or whatever, but teaching all those behaviors really fairly, is because we're gonna hold him very accountable. And we can't hold him very accountable, meaning using higher levels, if we haven't taught him fairly. So I'm a strong believer in, like, once it's fair, then you can go higher because the dog knows what's up. But if it's not fair, then the dog's gonna be confused, and then that's where e-collars get a bad name and all that stuff. So teach him fairly, all that basic stuff. And then we're gonna get to, the shadow's bugging me out, man. There we go. Then we're gonna get to the point where we can actually correct him for the car stuff. Now, one thing I wanna make sure that you do with your trainer, if your trainer knows e-collar really well, they should know this stuff very well. But GSDs have this long fur, right? So we don't wanna just use the normal contact points on the e-collar. Unless for some reason you guys are getting great consistent contact with those normal contact points, you want to definitely use either the longer fur contact points or e-collar technology sells something called a thick fur contact point, which is silver. They can cause more irritation to sensitive dogs, so you want to really switch the collar back and forth if the dog's wearing it all day. But definitely GSD, Husky, things like that, I find that you want that consistent contact. So make sure if your trainer's, even if your trainer's not new, just make sure that you're always getting contact, because a trainer can get contact, but you being a new user to the e-collar, you may not be able to get it. So getting your most optimal points for that is going to be really crucial. So say you've got, so this is your setup, right? Dog knows everything. Dog knows place, sit, down, everything on e-collar, heel on leash on e-collar, and then has the thick fur or has a contact point that no matter what, you put it on, you nestle it in, and the dog definitely is getting consistent contact. The reason I want this is because you want to make sure that your levels are consistent, so you're not playing guesswork every time. There's nothing worse than being like, okay, I know that a dog corrects at 20, but you hit him at 20 and he doesn't even feel it, and you've already missed your moment, and a car's gone by and he's exploded, and you're like, oh man, and then you roll up trying another number, and then it's too high because you're just not getting consistent contact. So we want to make sure we kind of knock out that contact issue. Then once your dog's fully e-collar trained, getting consistent contact, that first, and I hope your trainer will teach you this stuff, but this is really, really important. Just like I said before, that first little flick of the ears when a car is on its way or coming by, that's when you correct at a level that's high. So high for your dog could be 10. We've had dogs that like a 2 is their working level, so like 10 is astronomical for them. So, and we've also had dogs that 100, they'll feel it and they're like, right? So you have to figure out your dog. I don't know your dog at all. This baby does not like 10-minute answers. But what you're gonna have to do is find that higher level that matters to him and then do it at the right time. If you correct him once he's exploded at the car, it's just like him, it's the same exact thing as him going to the end of the leash. This is why this Q&A is tough these days. It's the same concept as him going to the end of the leash and getting corrected at the prong at the very end. So you need to correct him at the very onset. That means the flick of the ears, his eyes looking over, seeing the car, whatever it is, that's when you correct. But you don't correct at the 10 or whatever gets his attention. You correct at a level that's high for him. Not like blowing his mind, whatever that is, but something that is like, whoa, that gets my attention. And the reason you do it in that very first moment, as opposed to doing it once the car comes by, is that his mind is actually clear enough and he's not super intense. He's maybe at a 3 out of 10 or a 5 out of 10 versus a 12 out of 10. So if his mind is clear, he gets that correction. It's a high correction, but his mind is clear, so it's even higher for him, relatively, I guess. Then he's like, whoa, I never want to do that again. And then you never see that 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 20 that you're seeing. The most important thing for this guy too is all the other moments, making sure that you're holding him accountable throughout the house, making sure that when he's like going to place and he breaks place because he wants to walk over to whatever, another place or a food bowl or a dish or whatever, he gets corrected for that. You've got a young, like, impulsive dude, and I promise you it'll just get worse if this isn't addressed, and you probably have a great dog under the hood, but you just have to make sure that you're correcting at the right level as early as you can, and just have the mindset of like, this will not fly. This is not happening. I have a 10-month-old dog. I am not spending the next 2 years of my life trying to rein you in or taking you for walks at 5 in the morning or 2 a.m. so that you don't see any dogs. So yeah, kick his butt on all levels and correct early once you get that e-collar on board. And if the e-collar process is slow, because if your trainer's new or if you're doing it slower, then make sure when you're on that prong that you're correcting at that first look, not when he's all the way, right? Forrest totally agrees. Okay. Good luck. Good luck, Stephanie.
Okay. Man, I can get used to this. Let me move my coffee. Full disclosure, 4 shots. Even the guy at Starbucks was like, 4 shots? I was like, yeah, I just got 6 from your buddy over there. And he's like, oh, like, yeah, 10. So, but it doesn't really do much. I'm not so sure. I think caffeine's a bit overrated. So, but I do enjoy myself with coffee. Anyways, nice answer, Laura, for the GSD reacting to cars, barking, lunging, and being a maniac in their car. That sounds strangely enough like Laura's dog, Polar Bear, back in the day. So that was why I thought she'd be the perfect one to answer it. And the truth is, like, when you have dogs that are in kind of a serious aroused state, really pushing boundaries, really being kind of like edgy and nasty like that, it's up to you to correct them. Like, don't try and like use treats and calm them down through any of this BS or anything like that. There needs to be consequences for maniacal behavior. Let's keep it simple. And you know, that's how we got Polar Bear, Laura's dog, into a spot where he was able to be around horses after wanting to kill them, walk by dogs after wanting to like bite your legs off and things like that. So consequences are the answer to how you get there, along with training, of course, like quality training and fair training. But everybody wants to like leave out the C word, consequences or punishment or anything like that. And so anyways, thanks for answering that, Laura. It's time for me to get on to question number 4. So we're nearly ending, I should say, the end of the show. Okay, that was a hard one to get out. Anyways, we're getting closer towards the end of the show. So question number 4.
Okay, question 4 comes from Stacy. Stacy says the dog is stressing out over the walk. We have a 6-month-old puppy named Rez. He's small now, but he will be a big dog. Rez gave me a very hard time when I attached his first collar. This reaction was odd to me. I let the dog wear the collar around the house for a week and it seemed fine. The dog responds well to voice command around the house, sit down, wait, and is non-aggressive. The other night, my husband took him for a walk and made it 1 block from our house, and the dog threw itself on the ground, refusing to move, did a roll, trying to get away from my husband, and launched toward him, growling and barking. I gave a few voice commands which did nothing. Our other dog was calm and perplexed, just staring at the situation. Rez was acting so crazy and I was afraid my husband might get bit, so I told him to drop the leash. As soon as you dropped it, Rez yells, screams, rolls, and throws an extremely loud over-the-top fit. We've not taken the dog for a walk since that night. Rez only seems content when the lead is unattached. Looking forward to any advice. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much, Laura Morgan, for reading that off about Stacy and her dog freaking out on the walk. Now, if I had a nickel for every dog that I'd been out on a walk with that had a tantrum and a tizzy and a hissy fit and alligator rolls and all that stuff, and a lot of people be like, oh, it's because you're using a prong collar, and oh, you're using too much pressure. I've been out with dogs that just absolutely object. Just object. Like Stacy even said, like she had to work extremely hard to get the dog just to tolerate having a collar and leash on. So we've already got a dog that's pretty like iffy about this stuff. And then it sounds like I don't know all the details, but from what was shared, it sounds like all that kind of preliminary work was done to get the dog comfortable with the collar and the leash. And then the husband took the dog out for a walk. And that might have been too much. That might have been, for one, it could be so many different things. It could be just too much male energy, too much stuff that's like hardcore for the dog. And so the dog freaked if the dog wasn't comfortable. What else could it be? All right, we got dogs coming in. Manny, come on, bud. You can come join me. Hey man, come on up. Yeah. Sorry guys. Come on, get up, lazy bones. Anyways, okay, so it could be the just the male energy stuff. It could also be the actual the guy's handling of the leash. He could use too much pressure. He could have had the leash a little bit too snug, too tight, causing stress. He could have just not had enough relationship with the dog to where the dog was like, I'm not so sure about listening to you, and then giving the guy a really hard time. So, Belle, go. We can't have heavy breathing. And so, so it could be a lot of stuff with that. Now, that said, like major tantrumy stuff, like this gets really challenging because a lot of trainers, a lot of owners, people don't like, you know, they see dogs like tantruming, rolling, freaking out, and they flip out and they freak out. The reality is that the dogs are doing it themselves. The dogs are saying, I don't like this, and so I'm gonna, I mean, like, I had it with Ranger when I was in New Orleans. Ranger was like rolling and biting the leash and doing all sorts of monkey business. And we ended up with a fabulous, fabulous walk, like one of the nicest walking dogs. But what did I do? I said, let's go, bud. This is non-negotiable. We're headed this way. And so I think what happens a lot of times is that when dogs get into a tantrumy state, owners freak out. And especially if they're vocal or anything like that, not the owners, but the dog, if they're vocal, it's really challenging because then your neighbors are like, what are you doing to your dog? And you're like, I'm just trying to walk my dog. So that can be a hard one. And I have a lot of sympathy for anybody that's in that situation. So let's just see what we got here. So basically I said, you know, the dog is either panicked, annoyed, receiving too much leash pressure, which we covered, and then just freaking out just because, right? Just because of all of those things, or even just like, it's just the guy and I'm not comfortable with the guy. But it's super easy to, if you've got a sensitive dog, to add just a teeny bit too much leash pressure. If you're using a prong collar or even a like dominant dog collar or anything, and you're like doing like a straight arm thing, even if you're not like hoisting the dog up, but there's pressure constantly, you can really freak the dog out, and you can really make the dog nervous, and you can really cause the dog to have some tantrumy like stuff because the dog starts to get panicky and weird. Or if the dog's a real kind of a-hole with a lot of attitude, then they'll really disagree with that. And that's where like the real kind of art form comes into this, is reading what dog you've got. Do I have a panicky dog, or do I have a jackass dog that's saying, don't tell me what to do? Or the panicky dog that's like, I don't know what to do and I'm freaking out and so I'll roll around. Most of the time, I'll be real honest with you guys, most of the time when there's tantrums going on like that severely, it's coming from bratty stuff. So I haven't worked with the dog, so I can't say 100%. Boy, is that what we see most of the time. It certainly was the case with Ranger, you know, like pulling to the side, pulling to the front, pulling back, you know, like spinning, doing the whole thing. And I was just like, dude, we're going on an hour-and-a-half walk, so like, you can have it however you want to have it. And everybody saw our walks, and our walks were beautiful within like 2 days. So I'm not a big fan of like giving into this whole tantrumy thing. Now, of course, you have to like make sure the dog's okay, and make sure you're making smart moves, and make sure that you're using the right tools and doing all that. But I would say the most important thing that you assess is, do we have a nervous, insecure, freaked out dog? Or do we have a bratty, opinionated dog? Or do we have both? Because you can. And if you've got a nervous, insecure dog that's been using bratty, kind of like, you know, opinionated stuff, then you're really off to the races. So, in closing this out, tantrums are usually best handled by ignoring and continuing. I know that that doesn't sound like glamorous dog training, and to be honest, I'm really okay with that. Glamorous dog training isn't always the best dog training. Glamorous dog training is what a lot of dog trainers want to market, purport, and show and share and prey on people's hearts that this is the easiest way, when a lot of times it leaves dogs stuck. A lot of times it leaves dogs struggling on walks. A lot of times it leaves dogs where they can't get over a hump. Or you can just say, like, let's do this and follow me, I know the way. And the dog's like, no, I can't do it. And you're like, yes, you can. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, the dog's like, I'm all tantrumed out. Let's walk. So that's my suggestion for that. I hope that helps.
Okay, question 5 comes from Avishay. She says, a 6-year-old with us for the last 15 months after probably spending some time on the streets and shelters, got to us after a year with a previous owner that didn't really have time for him in his life, which probably didn't help too much with his behaviors. He has separation anxiety, which we work on with a crate and remote collar for correcting when biting and wrecking it when we go outside. Besides the separation anxiety, he has a barking issue, but he's not aggressive or biting at all. But when someone enters our house, he immediately starts to bark, usually till he sniffs them. It can also happen with people he knows, because he starts barking the second the door opens and it takes him a few seconds to understand. It happens not only in our house, but everywhere he feels comfortable and safe. With an e-collar, he gets the whole big brother thing and doesn't bark, but without it, he's the same. When we close his mouth, it's like he has no control over it, and even though it's not comfortable for him, it's like a tick. He must continue doing it. They've done a bonk, like Jeff Gellman says, it doesn't help. Anything else we should do than keep him in a crate with a collar every time the guest enters? What do we do in locations where we don't have the crate? Thank you.
So, Avishai, dog is pushing through corrections. And thanks for reading that, Laura, I hope. Dog is pushing through corrections without the e-collar. So once again, we kind of find ourselves in that same spot, right? That same spot being, we're taking the e-collar off, and then we're upset that we're not getting the reactions that we want without the e-collar. It's a hard one, guys. I get that there's like this weird emotional resistance, like why do we need this external tool? Why do we need this on our dog? But if the tool helps, if the tool works, if the tool causes your dog to excel and exceed and be happy and be healthy and not engage in negative behaviors, isn't it a fabulous tool to use? And wouldn't you want it on him all the time, right? If there was like a pill you could take and it made you not anxious or not stressed or not freaked out all the time, like, wouldn't you take it? I bet you would. So, and if the doctor is like, you don't need to take it. You're like, but I feel so much better on it. It's like, nah, it's all right. It's kind of a pain in the ass to take that pill. You'd be like, give me that damn pill. So your dog's not going to say, give me the damn e-collar. That's your job. But what we're seeing is, you know, in a couple of different spots here in this Q&A, people moving off of the e-collar too soon and then struggling with results and being disappointed with the dog, being disappointed with the results. And I don't think they're understanding the process of e-collar work. And the process of e-collar work is that it needs to be something that's patterned for a long time, so the dog becomes patterned. So the stuff becomes second nature, default, to where the dog doesn't even think about it, to where when you say come, the dog doesn't go, the dog just goes, poof. When you say down, the dog doesn't go, do you have the e-collar? The dog goes, poof. Right? When you say heel, the dog's like, boom, I'm right here. Not like, can I get away with it? So if you allow the dog to gamble and you take the tools off early, you're likely going to struggle with this stuff. There's just no getting away from it, guys. I don't want to be a hard ass, but what I do want to share is the truth with this stuff. There's a reason when dogs come in for our board and train, whether it's 2, 3, or 4, 5, 6 weeks, whatever, anytime they're out and working with us, there's an e-collar on them. Why? For consistency, so there's no gaps. So the dog goes, this is how I live, this is how I operate, these are the decisions I make, and I'm always held accountable, and I always do my best, and if I don't, there's a consequence. It's It's really that simple. So you start to deviate from that, you start to modify it, you start to like get rid of the tool that allows you to do that, and then you find yourself with a dog making different choices. So I hope that makes sense. So let me just read some of the notes here. If the dog behaves with the e-collar, then use it. That's probably my best note of the whole thing. Like, literally, this is for you, for Angela, the number one question. If the dog does great on the e-collar, then freaking use it. Stop getting away from it. Like, I don't understand. Like, once again, it's like taking medication. I feel so much better with it, but I don't want to take it. Are you crazy? If it makes you feel better and happier and healthier and it doesn't have any detrimental effects, you're crazy not to take it. And human beings are lazy. Sorry guys, but we're lazy. We don't like to deal with this stuff. We have these visions and fantasies in our heads of like dogs like prancing through the prairies naturally, no tools on. I can't whistle, but you whistle and Lassie comes running right back and like, what do you need, Dad? Or what do you need, Jimmy? Or anything like that. It's not the reality. It's not the reality, guys. So if you use it enough, you can slowly reprogram your dog. I've said that ad nauseum, right? If you use it enough, you can slowly reprogram your dog. And that's the whole gig. Reprogram your dog. Like us, anything you do enough becomes a habit. You don't think about tying your shoes, you just tie your shoes. You don't think about brushing your teeth, you just brush your teeth. If you do it enough, it just becomes habit. It's natural. If you do it occasionally, it's work, it's hard, it's effort. You have decisions, choices. Do I go to the gym? Do I brush my teeth? Do I put my shoes on, right? If you only do it occasionally. But like shoes and toothbrush or shoes and brushing teeth are bad examples, but gym's a great example. Eating healthy is a great example. Those are things that like, as soon as you start to deviate, they become choices. And choices are really hard. Habits are really easy. And I think Lauren Morgan said that. But it really is the truth, and it's the truth for you and it's the truth for your dog. So if you're struggling, and I think there was even talk about like holding the dog's muzzle or something like that when people come in, guys, make it easy on you and make it easy on the dog. Put the e-collar on and reprogram him to where he's quiet and relaxed when people come in, and what you'll get is what I call natural counter conditioning. And natural counter conditioning is when you block the behavior and the emotional state that corresponds with it, that creates this ongoing, perpetual, I don't like this, I'm uncomfortable with this, I gotta do something about it, to like, I can't do anything about it. I'll just hang tight. There's that guy again, or there's that lady again, or there's all those people coming in again. And eventually, your dog doesn't care, because it sees it enough and enough and enough and enough. It becomes the habit. Nothing bad happens. Nobody goes over and hassles your dog. Your dog doesn't have the option to even like make a decision, which removes stress at like massive levels. And then you're like rocking and rolling. And then just don't be in a hurry to get that e-collar off. Take it off down the line. Maybe it's 2 years, maybe it's 3 years, maybe it's 5, maybe it's never. Doesn't matter. Use what works. Like, come on, guys. Use what works. All right. So, and then my final note for this is that the more he reacts, the worse he gets. Meaning, the more reinforced he gets for that behavior. The less he reacts, the better he gets, because he's not being reinforced. And then stop taking the e-collar off. So that's it, guys. I hope that makes sense. I know the e-collar, like every drop-off session is the same, has the same question embedded in it, and that question is, how long do we have to keep the e-collar on? There's this thing, like people don't say, how long do I have to keep like the collar with the tags on, or how long do I have to keep like, you know, whatever. But the e-collar, it's got this weird thing about it. And so whether it's social pressure, whether it's laziness on your part, that you have to put that on and carry around the remote, whatever it is, it's getting in the way of your progress. If you can just get over the hump of the laziness, get over the hump of giving a crap about what anybody else thinks, put your damn e-collar on your dog before it comes out of the crate, and then consistently use it and ask for your dog's best, you will slowly repattern and reprogram a dog that behaves very different. Trust me, trust me, trust me. That's all we do over and over and over again. Well, we do a lot of things, but that's a big part of our program of how we get dogs from here to here. Patterning consistently, sharing consequences, accountability, asking for the dog's best, rules, structure, leadership. You know the gig. Do it. Don't get rid of the e-collar. All right? Anyways, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. I hope you enjoyed this Q&A Saturday with our special fancy lights and my maiden voyage here with the iPhone and the lights and the whole kind of rig. And hopefully it looks good. And Laura will add a little magic pixie dust to make it look even better. So until next week, that was episode 133. I'll see you for episode 134. Hope you guys are good. Any questions, of course, hit us up in the comments. There were so many questions this week because I told everybody we didn't have enough questions, and of course you guys hit me with a million, so there was a whole bunch that we couldn't get to. So my apologies. A lot of really good questions this week, and we just had to kind of like go with what we went with. So feel free to repost them next week if you'd like to get an answer for them. And that's it. I'll see you guys next week. Take care. See ya. Bye.
Okay, bye guys. Say bye to Mr. Forrest.